Now then, how are you doing? My name's Dave Kay. I'm the Yorkshire Bike Mechanic and you're watching the Yorkshire Bike Mechanics YouTube video channel. This is kind of part 3 of what we've been doing on this particular Santa Cruz. We did a video on servicing the lower leg on the forks. We've just done one not too long ago on the hub at the back. There were loads of end play there. So we sorted that out. That wasn't too long. Quick fix and inexpensive, which makes a nice change. And today, what I want to do is I want to service these Santa Cruz pivots. Okay, we've got some brand new bearings for these, courtesy of Santa Cruz. So what we're going to do is we're going to strip this pivot system down completely. We're going to take this crank out. And we're going to take all the pivot system out and we're going to put new bearings in. I'll try not to make the video too long, so the more mundane things I'll probably won't video, so I'll kind of skip to the interesting bits, if you like. So let's start off. So what we need to do, we need to take the wheel out, we need to take the chain off, we need to take the crankset off. It's a SRAM GXP. We're going to put a new bottom bracket in there. We've got a nice Hope one with some GXP adapters, so we're going to put them in there. We're going to take the crankset off and we're going to then strip this suspension pivot down. So let's crack on. We've now taken the crankset off. I've taken the bottom bracket out. I've taken the chain off as well because we're going to put a new chain on it. So now we've left with this section here. So what I thought we'd do is I thought we'd do this wishbone section first here. Doing it that way, at least we don't have all this dangling around out, you know, off the end. We can leave this section, this wishbone section at top, we can leave that attached and we can take this out, deal with this bit first, put that back, and then deal with the top section as well. And they're doing that way we're not have stuff dangling all over. So we need a 5mm Allen key just to undo these conical washers at the end. And they shouldn't be as tight as that, but they are. So these are a 5mm Allen key. God, they're tight in there. Can't get that off of there. Here we go. That's it. Do the same with this one. That one wasn't quite as tight. Put them to one side with that washer. Okay, so we've taken the 5mm bolts out. We've put them to one side. That leaves us with two. Like a conical shaped washer, retaining washer that keeps the pins in the place. Now sometimes you generally find that they'll be stuck in there if they've not been greased. So generally just use an 8mm Allen key and just pop it in the end and just wiggle it about just slightly, and you'll find that they'll come loose. There you go. There's one. Okay, put that to one side. There's no grease on that at all, and there should be. Okay, and we'll do the same with the other one. Sometimes they take a little bit of persuading to come out. Okay, that's the other one. That's got no grease on it either. So that reveals, once we've taken them two out, that reveals an 8mm Allen key slot for these pins. So we just stick us 8mm in there, and it's anti-clockwise to loosen them off. They shouldn't be right tight. Okay. Now when these come out, they should be all black. And there should be loads of grease on them. And that's not bad, to be honest. Can you see that? That's actually come out quite nice. There's no wear on there, so that's fine. We'll put that to one side. Okay. And we'll do this one. Okay, we'll take that one out. That one's the same, that's in good condition as well. Now those two bolts are exactly the same, so you can't mix them up. So this allows us really to take this like little wishbone out of here from the back. You see how it's coming out? Okay, so we'll just drop that back down and it'll rest on there, and we'll just clean that section out before we put it back. But that leaves us with this section here. If you notice, there's like a bleed nipple underneath, which is used to grease these pivots. Inside there's like a way, there's like a grease port, a way that goes from front to back. So when you put grease in this nipple, it flows from the front to the back and fills these chambers up inside. It's a brilliant idea, but as long as you do it. So on the end here we've got some spacers, some like little some washers. Okay, and there's four. They're all exactly the same. So we'll just pull them off with us fingers to one side. Now you can't really get this the wrong way around, to be honest. If you remember the grease nipples at the back and it's pointing downwards, if you're unsure, before you take it off, just take a photograph so you know exactly where these things are. And it goes back exactly the same place. Now you'll notice that inside here is some like rubber seals there. There's one on each one, and it's same on the other side. Okay, now you only get those seals if you buy a full kit including pins. You can order them separately, but it's generally not something that you would replace as standard when you're doing the bearings. So it's important that you keep those safe. You can take them out, they just simply come out if you grab your pricker or something sharp. They just flick out. Be careful not to damage the seal. They're all four are the same, so we'll take those out. 2, 3. So you're just putting it under the edge not to damage the seal. That's it. 4. If you want to replace these, if they're not in good condition, then replace them. Don't put it back if they're not in good condition. Order some. So that exposes these bearings here. Okay. Now these new ones that we put in, there's only a seal on one side on the outside. There's no seal on the inside of the bearing. I'll show you what I mean. And that's so the grease that you pump in through the grease nipple can flow through and go to the inside of the bearings as well. So there's quite a lot of grease in there, which is good. That's what we're after. So what I'll do is I'll just wipe this and give it a clean. It has been greased at some times. You can, at some point, you can see where it's where the residue's been left after the grease guns come off. So it has been done. Okay, so we'll give it a wipe and I'll come back. Okay, so we've now cleaned this, got all muck and sludge off, and that leaves us bearings there. Now there's two ways we can actually get these bearings out of here. The bearing pullers that I generally use need to actually go in from the other side as well as this side. But on this particular occasion we can't get nothing in there, it's too narrow from this side. So excuse me, what we have to use is a blind bearing puller to get these bearings out. We could put them on something hard and get like a brass drift and drift them out that way from this side, but that's not advisable. The chances are you probably could damage this edge, so we're not going to do that. We'll use a blind bearing puller. So this one we use here is specific for this particular bearing. We have different sizes, so all you do basically is hook it up behind the bearing till it clicks into place, and then just tighten that up. Okay, and then what it's doing, it's expanded behind the bearing. So all we basically do is this slide here, we slide it down and out comes the bearing. Okay, so one bearing out, and we do exactly the same with all the other four. If you've not got a blind bearing puller, then you don't have much choice but to use a different method, but they're not that expensive, to be honest. And we've found them really useful, really valuable for getting bearings out, such as this. And you can actually get them out pretty quick, to be honest. So I hope that's kind of giving you a bit of an explanation as to blind bearing pullers and their uses. And this is the last one. That's it. So we've got all four bearings out fairly quickly, easily, and without any damage. We're not too bothered about these bearings, because if you get bearings out, once they're out, they've gone, they're knackered. So you've got to throw them away in bin. Only thing is, sometimes they take a bit of getting off. That's it. Okay, so that's left us with an empty dog bone, wishbone, or whatever you want to call it, and you can see the grease inside. But one of the bearings that's come out, you can see that on this side, see if there's plenty of focus there. So on this side, you can see that there's the seal there, but on the other side, there's no seal. You can see the balls inside the race, and they go inwards. So when you, like I said before, when you pump loads of grease in there, it goes up that tube and fills the back, the whole cavity in there with grease. So they're in nice condition, to be honest. There's no muck or sludge. Those housings look really, really good. So what we need to do is put us new bearings in. So for that we need us new bearings and a decent press. So we'll get them sorted out and I'll come back. So there's just four brand new bearings. You can see that they come loaded with grease in the back, and they need to go that way around in there. Okay, it's got loads of grease in there to begin with, so I don't need to put any more in. And we use a bearing press like this one, which is exactly the same diameter as them bearings, and we just need that to press them home. If you use a socket or not the right tool, then you have a chance of damaging these bearings, because the pressure needs to be put on the outer races, not the inner. Otherwise you'll damage them. So we'll just put one in for now. Okay, so there's all those new bearings in. Feel absolutely gorgeous. Feel really, really nice. Lovely and smooth. But they ought to do, because they're brand new ones. So then what we need to do is we need to put us seals back. So we need some grease. We'll put some grease around those edges. Okay. And then we'll put these seals back, give them a wipe and a clean. Make sure there's no muck on them. And there's only one way they go in. But if you're unsure, just make sure you look before you take them out. Take photographs if you wish, if you find that easier. But there go in. Then what we need to do is we need to get us as seals washers. These are the washers that sit on the end of the seals. Give them a good clean. Make sure there's no rubbish on them. Grit. Okay. And all we do is we just bob them back in there over the edge, and we'll do that with all the rest. So that's all them back in, okay, all nice. So what we need to do now is, this particular section inside generally gets blathered in muck, so we just need to give it a bit of a wipe and a bit of a clean, and we can just lift that out of the way and get us cloth in the bottom and just give it a good wipe. Get any residue out the bottom that's been sat in there. Okay, get your fingers in those holes, get them cleaned out. Same with this, with the rear triangle section. Get that clean as well. Get all rid of all the crap. Okay, and then what we can do is we can put this this wishbone, dog bone, wishbone, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so we'll just basically drop that back in with the grease nipple pointing backwards in there, very gently, and then up to there, and then we'll take us pin. Both the pins are the same here. Give them a wipe and a clean. We'll put a little bit of grease on them because when they go through these carbon frames, need to put a bit of grease on that bit. Okay, put a little bit of Loctite on these threads. Okay, you only need a little bit, don't need much. And then we just slowly offer that back through there, and you'll find that it will locate itself into the thread at the other side. And we just take us 8mm Allen key, and we just slowly just tighten that up until it stops. We don't want to tighten it up really, just till it starts to go stiff. You don't need much. Okay, and then we'll do exactly the same with the other pin. Give it a clean and a wipe. Okay. Put a bit of grease on, a little bit of thread lock, and then we need to feed that one in this side. Okay, this one's a little bit more awkward. You have to get your hands in to bring it in line. Once you've got it lined up, it should drop in. There we are. Okay, and we'll just locate that one, and again it should find its way into the other side. We just want to tighten it up just till it stops. That's it. And then what we need to do is we need to torque these up. On these two pivots here, these 8mm ones, Santa Cruz specified 20 Newton meters of torque on these two. So we'll just go ahead and apply that now. And that's it on that one. And that's it on that one. So 20 Newton meters on those. The outer ones, which we're going to put in now, need a little bit of grease on the outside just to stop them sticking in. Just drop them in there. We'll do the same with the other one. That's it. Drop that in there, okay. And then we can put us 5mm bolts back in. A little bit of Loctite. And these need tightening up to 9 Newton meters. That's it. And we'll do the same on the other one. Bit of Loctite. Newton-meters. Okay, so this is basically the bottom section done. What we need to do when we finish the top section is we need to pump some grease through that grease nipple, but we can't do that because you can't get to it. The only way to get to that is when you loosen the shock off the top and you drop it down. Then you can lift this triangle up the back and then get to that grease nipple at the back. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to do this particular pivot here, and then the top pivots here, these two next. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll take them out first and then I'll come back. Right, so I've got the top section out, dog bone, wishbone, whatever you want to call it. And when you take this out, just be careful because there's two washers, two spacers on the inside of there, which takes up the distance between them two spaces there. So just when you take that out, just be careful because they will fall out and you will lose them. So just put them to one side. On the bottom we've got a similar sort of system. We've got two spacers there, one on either side. Okay, and then we've got two washers, and then we've got two bearings. Now these are proper rough. You can see all the muck inside there. Now this doesn't have like a grease nipple, so you can grease it. It's basically self-contained, so whatever grease is in there is what you put in when you put these bearings in. And the bearings that we put in, there's two seals either side, so no water can get in. These two smaller ones here, they're fairly straightforward, only small. We can get those out. We can get those out with this bearing press that we use. So what I'll do is I'll use as slide hammer, as bearing slide puller, to get these two out. And then we'll use as press tool to get them two out. So I think I've shown you this tool before in other videos, this bearing press tool that we use. We use it to get all bearings out that are kind of similar to that. We have a press for just about every size bearing there is going, bike related. So what we basically do is we'll take this to bits. Okay, so we put that through there, feed that through as bearing, and then we put that on the other side and we tighten that up, and then we get as Allen key, and in this particular case it's an 8mm one, and we just turn that, but generally speaking we need something to hold the other side in place. So if I and then turn, it'll start to pull the bearing out. There we are. Okay. Now this is the best way of taking bearings out of frames or frame components without damaging the frame. And there's his bearing. Okay, and we do exactly the same with the other side. I'm trying to do all this in an awkward position. Okay, so we screw that on there. Get us Allen key. Put that in there, and then we turn. And that's it, that's out. Now the way we put them back in is very similar, but it's reversal. Instead of using this little tooth section, this T section, we use that spacer, and we get us bearing. just clean it out first. Put a bit of grease on there, on the internals. That's it. And then put us bearing over there. Put it up to there. And get the back over there, so everything is square and everything goes in square. There we are. Easy peasy. Okay, that's in. All done. You don't need much force. And the good thing about it is all the pressure is on the outer race, not on the inner one, which is the bit that damages. So we'll do exactly the same on the other side. So we've now got us bearings in as other side, in as top and as bottom. We've got the spacers or the washers all nice and clean to go on the outside like that. Got two of those. Give the other one a clean. And then what we need to do is we need to put a big chunk of grease. So we've got this top pivot in now. Took a bit of getting in actually, it wasn't aligned right, but anyway, it's gone in. That's fine. I've torqued it up. 20 newton meters on big one and 9 on retaining nut on 5mm. So if we leave this like this, we've got as little as 2 internal washers in there, don't forget those. But if we leave it like this, it means that we can actually pull this rear triangle up and we can get as grease gun under there to get some grease under in there and in that port. If I lift that right out of the way and get us grease gun in, clip it on there, and I can pump some grease through. And I need to keep pumping until it starts to come out at side where them washers are. There we are, that's it. Brilliant. Okay, that's all in there. Just wipe that residue off. There. Right, so we've got tons of grease in there now, and it's started to spelch out at sides, which is what we want. So that means it's full of grease, can't get any more in there. So, brilliant, that's that done. So what we need to do now is get these top bolts back in and get a shock connected. We'll put the 2 spacers in, these 2 little black ones here. We'll put them spacers in. It's important that they go the right way around. So you can see, I don't know whether you can, let me just, there's like a little ridge. It's like a little ridge, like a bearing face that goes on the inside. Okay, up against the bearing side, the inner race. So we'll put a little bit of grease on those, and it just helps them stay in the place as well while we push it back up. Some on the other side. And then we can just carefully push this back up, taking care not to knock them spacers out. Okay, bit of grease on these outsides. Other side. Little bit of Loctite on the nuts. Don't need a lot. And a 5mm. Okay, just be careful when you screw them back in. Don't cross thread them. If they're not going in right, don't force it. Okay, so I'm just going to leave them loose for now. Okay, I'll get us other one. We'll do the same with the other one, a little bit of Loctite. That's it. Get the other side in. Same again, don't force if it's not going in easy. Okay, and the torque setting is 16 Newton meters on these. So that's that one. That's it. So now what we need to do is we need to put a shock back, and then really, apart from check everything, that's all we need to do. That's basically a bearing service done, a suspension bearing service done on a Santa Cruz Hightower. We'll talk that up in a minute. So we've got the bottom bracket still to put in, but essentially we've just done a bearing service on a Santa Cruz Hightower. Fairly straightforward. Need a few decent tools, but easily doable if you've got some decent stuff. All torqued up as per Santa Cruz's specs. All that's left to do now is put us bottom bracket in, put us crankset back in. This one's getting a new front ring and a new chain. We've already put a cassette on last video. Put the back wheel in and we're good to go. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope it's been a little bit easier than what you thought. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers, bye.